Here's another what you can do now suggestion. This happens to be an Edward mango tree, and we have a fair amount of fruit on it, so good job, Edward. But what you can do as a mango tree owner this time of year is to reduce the amount of stuff that is falling and rubbing on your fruit. Right here, this is like the tail end of this part of the panicle, and it's rubbing on that fruit. That is potentially bad news for the fruit, because if you leave it on there, a lot of times it'll produce result in a black mark, which is like anthracnose, and that will actually, in some cases, eat into the fruit eventually. And so, if you're eating it yourself and it reaches maturity, that's not a problem, but it's always nice to have pretty fruit. So, if it doesn't break, you can just trim them off, and I just go ahead and trim this part of the panicle too. It's not doing anything. So you can see in some cases, some varieties are more prone to this. This is just a little tiny tail that you might as well rub off. Little fruits can make like a little black spot eventually also, so can take those off. But just take a look. Here's a green part of the panicle. That's not going to stay green for long. So for nice fruit, just take it off. This is a potential problem for both of those fruit. It's right between. Let's see if we can. No, it's really not pulling down. But try and cut it back to so it's out of the way. This little one that we can just break off. It's very thin and crackly, and trim that off also. So it's one of those things you can spend a lot of time outside depending on your fruit set, but keep an eye out for that particular problem. Look at this. This is just from this panicle rubbing against the fruit. We see those marks on the fruit. This fruit is really young, and that is only going to get worse if this part of the panicle keeps rubbing. So just take it off, eliminate the source of the problem. Same thing for this. This is rubbing on the fruit. You don't need that part of the panicle. It's not like it's going to flower again. That's just an empty panicle. It seems like when the panicles start dying, that they become more of a danger to the fruit. But yeah, just take them off. Of course, if you have a whole lot of fruit in one area, you can thin it. But a lot of times it's already thinned its fruit itself, and you can go back and make this like a better situation for the fruit. Oh boy, this one has a little tail of a panicle branch at the end. So just check it out. Whenever you're passing by, break them off if they're crinkly, and one had just a small amount of crinkle. But this was possibly a problem that was sort of started from that panicle. We have a spot on the fruit. Hopefully the fruit will develop anyway. But anyway, this time of the season, that's one of the main things that you can do. Of course, if you have a branch that is really tall and has absolutely no fruit on it, that's something else you can do. You can trim that branch back, and of course, if you have a seedling tree that hasn't flowered at all, it's a good time to cut that back. If it hasn't flowered in the next few weeks, it's not going to flower this year. So rather than let it get huge, out of control, you can cut it back early in the season, and it will have longer to recover before the next season, next flowering season. Those are things for people who have special situations with trees, but this is the most common. When you have fruit that is hanging on the tree and parts of the panicles are rubbing against the fruit, try and do something about that. Just carefully cut back the panicle so you don't cut off the fruit too, and you will have nicer fruit when it's ready to pick.